And we are live. Good evening, everyone. Official scorecard here. Corruption in boxing, unfortunately, is unable to join us tonight. This is going to be a very, very, very short stream. So, yeah, corruption's location has been compromised. You know that Eddie Hearn's goons are always behind us, looking for us. So corruption is well hidden. But yeah, let's get straight to this. I have my coffee ready, my cigarettes are ready, uh, and I'm not trying to promote the cigarettes smoking, and my notes are ready. So I took a lot of notes while I was watching just one or two of Murata's fights because I was supposed to read them out on a stream that I was supposed to do with corruption, but I'm going to read them to you. So it's going to be a very technical breakdown of what I've seen from Murata as a fighter and what I expect from him to do, how I see him, and how it fares in comparison to Golovkin and Golovkin's style. It's just a shame that I didn't have enough of time to prepare the video clips, so I'd be able to do a proper breakdown, film study, let's say, rather a film study. But it is what it is. So it's not going to be as clear without the video footage, but as it's not prepared, I'm just going to simply read it out to you. Yeah, so like I said, this is going to be a very short stream, some 20-30 minutes. So pay a close attention. Now, good evening to anyone who's listening to the show right now. Wish you welcome. And I hope all of you guys are going to have a great weekend. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy the fight this weekend and everything. I hope everything is going well for you, because it's going very well for me. Yeah, so this fight, the things that I've seen, so just before going live, I quickly saw the images from the waiting, and Golovkin, man, he looks to be in a great shape. And leading up to this fight, I was also seeing some clips and photos from his official Instagram profile, and that's why I was not surprised of him being appearing to be in such a great shape. On the other hand, when he came to Japan a few days ago, if I'm not wrong, or maybe he's been in Japan longer than that, but his official appearance along with Murata, I saw a photo of him a few days ago, and man, his face looked very, very old. I had the impression that he was looking his face was looking much younger in his workout videos during this training camp. But yeah, nothing surprising. If it was the day when he indeed came to Japan, it could be explained by a possible jet lag, but also by him cutting the weight. But anyways, him looking old in the face is nothing surprising, of course. What is surprising is that shape that he's already showing second fight in a row. Because remember, I praised his the way his body was looking in his previous fight at waiting for the Seremeta fight, but this time he looks much better, even better than that. And at his waiting for the fight against Seremeta, he was already looking to be his body in an improved shape in comparison to how he was looking in his other fights, previous fights. Yeah, very well defined. Never seen him looking as muscle bound as this time. But anyways, yeah, this fight, I mean, very, very interesting fight because style-wise, I'm saying, not comparing their skill levels, but style-wise, Murata should be able to give him a very tough fight. But I'll get to Murata in a second because it took a lot of notes that I have to read them all out to you. Again, shout out to anybody listening to the stream live or after the live. So, me personally, in my opinion, I'm picking Golovkin. Now, I'm picking him to win this fight, judging by what I previously know from him, and keeping in mind that I'm expecting him to look at least nearly as good as he did in his last fight. And I thought that his performance in his last fight, although it was not against a big name, but Seremeta, who's a very nice boxer, who's not committing a lot of errors, although unknown, like I said. He's not a top level fighter, but a very well schooled fighter, and it was seen in their fight. Yeah, that performance against Seremeta, people were criticizing them, and I quickly rewatched just the first 2 rounds of their fight yesterday, and I still thought that the same things that I mentioned on our post-fight show after his fight with Seremeta, meaning that Golovkin to me looked very sharp, and I mean, of course, physical deterioration in terms of speed and the other things should not be surprising, but nothing seemed off when it comes to Golovkin previous performance to me. Adding to that, I saw some things that he was not showing lately. I mean, first of all, he's always been criticized for the so-called lack of the upper body movement, which was always a nonsense to me to begin with. But in his last fight against Seremeta, it was even much more pronounced. Oh, surprise. Corruption, you were able to escape Eddie Hearn's goons.
Yeah. Yeah, there were bounty hunters on my trail, and I had to take emergency evasive action, get into a few stolen cars and change it through Amsterdam Tunnel. It was an hour journey turned into about 4 hours just to clean my trail.
I'm very, very glad that you're here in one single piece.
Yeah, it's been a little while. Yeah, sorry. I know you've probably been on for an hour.
No, it's been barely 9 minutes.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
I don't want to. So, what's the rundown for the show?
Oh, whatever you like, because I thought that you would not be joining, so as I thought that I would be alone tonight, I was thinking on doing a very short show, but as you're here, it's gonna be business as usual. So yeah, I've been speaking about. I mean, uh, talking about Golovkin's shape for this fighting, his shape during this during the training camp for this fight, as well as I started talking about his, to me, underrated performance against Zeremeta.
Yeah, looking at some of the training videos, they're always the key videos to see if there's been any progression with Jonathan Banks and with Riotto as well. Because Murata hasn't fought for, what is it, 22 months or something, or over 2 years. I
Yes,
remember
since
seeing,
2019, the December of
yeah,
2019.
yeah. So Golovkin, despite him turning 40, is going to be the more seasoned fighter going into the ring. Surprised with Murata that the top rank, or one of the promoters, there was a possibility of him fighting in the United States just to keep busy when the lockdown and the subsequent problems they had after the Olympics. So he could have, but he chose to remain in Japan. I'm not sure who the opponent was, but given what happened to him last time when he traveled over to the United States and in getting embarrassed by Rob Brand, a fight he really should not have lost. But okay, he avenged it. But still, if you're going to be a superior fighter, then you've got to take challenges of beating B minus C level opponent. You know what I mean? Rob Brand is what, a B minus C plus level opponent? He's not elite.
Yeah,
So he shouldn't really have had any difficulty the first time. So if you're struggling to take challenges in a foreign country and acclimate, given that you have achieved great success as an Olympian, and hence that implies that you've won medals on foreign territories, so that should not be alien to your composition. You should have that ability. That's why a lot of them, the amateur medalists we see, are very good fighting, because they've traveled the globe 50, 60 times, so they're used to those pressures in fighting the way. So it was surprising with him losing in that capacity, and he was feeling sorry for himself in the ring. It was a pretty terrible performance, because you knew what Rob Brand's game plan was going to be. He was going to just move excessively, try and jab, a pressure fighter who likes to get a little bit closer and start using, body punching and just hooking and winging on the inside, and not a very good defense as well. So the preparation for me was poor. I think they were expecting a relatively simple title defense as a way of introducing themselves to the American audiences, because he's got a fan-friendly style. But conversely for him, it was an embarrassing performance, and his stock massively dropped. And if he hadn't taken a media rematch, then perhaps his fan base and his reputation and his ability to sort of fight in front of up to 42 million people in Japan on national TV, those would have been in severe jeopardy. So hence it was imperative for him to have rematched and probably won in a decisive fashion. Although I don't know about you, it looked like a premature stoppage to me. There wasn't any significant damage. Well, there was damage done, but you could have let the fight continue a little bit. Let Brand hit the canvas properly and be counted out. That would have been. But a lot of stoppages are very easily. We knew the referee was probably going to give every favorite opportunity to the home fighter. And when fighters are hurt a little bit, we've seen it in Britain all the time, and in the States. You just got to look at the kid Gary Antoine Russell when they wanted to give him a stoppage at the end with the Postol, when he didn't even look remotely hurt. They just stopped
Yeah.
it, pad up his record a little bit with a stoppage. So everybody tends to do that to a certain extent, but he probably would have won the fight, no doubt about it. And Rob Brand, since we've seen what happened when he hooked up with Big Mac, he got pieced up by Janabek, and he just looks like a completely shot fighter now. So but with Golovkin, he can travel abroad. He's fought forever on the road in America, and he's went to Britain to defeat Kell Brook, Monte Carlo. Doesn't seem to faze him. Ice cold mentality. Looking good. I hope Jonathan Banks doesn't try to rescind his style too much from what it was under, Sanchez. There was nothing wrong with that style. He's an intimidating factor, a power puncher, classy boxer, can pretty much do it all. I think it's going to be an aggressive fight, and I hope he is aggressive, make a statement. There's no need to box too much. He can outbox him. Golovkin is by far the superior boxer. But what he's going to have to watch out with Murata is, I'm not sure whether you've broken down his style, but some of the recent video analysis I did, there's a lot of almost Artur Beterbiev style, punches, wild punches that can hit the back of the head, elbows, using the shoulder. Yeah, he's a extremely roughhouse tactics, hell of a lot of rapid punching. Looks intentional as well. It didn't look like it was accidental. Didn't see any apologies from him. Referee warned him, but he carried on. I think that was his third or fourth fight. So he's been doing it all along. I went back into these amateurs to have a look. He was warned by referees back then as well. So he's had this tendency, official. So I think he's going to use it here. The referee's probably going to be sympathetic and allow him to use it. Try and attain any advantage he has. So Golovkin, is going to have to really control him. I think Golovkin will be targeting, as I mentioned before, I think he's going to be targeting headshots, head punches, and that's good because Murata's defense is porous. Punches can pierce his guard, especially straight punches. I've seen people, Ndam even hook around his guard as well. What happens when he gets frustrated in being hit, he tends to dip his head. I don't know whether you noticed it, in frustration, as opposed to try and modify his guard. And when he's moving his head, trying to dip it, trying to get the top of his head to try and deflect the blows, then I've seen, people try and change and hook around the guard, but even still penetrating the guard and hitting his head, the harder part of his head, so he's absorbed it a little bit. But he doesn't pay a lot of attention to defense. He just wants to almost take punches to try and get on the inside where he can reel off his punches. But his hand speed is also not the fastest, and I think that's a major factor. I think if there's one element where Golovkin can be probably troubled through everything, it is hand speed. Not saying that it rocks him or whatever, but hand speed can definitely trouble Golovkin, even from his guard position. You can sort of preoccupy him, stop him sort of getting his jab and extending his jab too free. And Murata, from what I can see, official, he doesn't really have that hand speed. He has a lot of punch volume, but that's different from hand speed. Yeah, he'll throw 2, 3, 4, whatever, but I think Golovkin can punch with him during those exchanges, and I think he can counter him with an uppercut in between. Murata likes that double left hook, right hand, and I think he can, after his hook, I think Golovkin can definitely counter him because he tends to move after he's hooked to come back with his right hand. He tends to move to his right and I think Golovkin there can perhaps nail him, or even with a short left hook. Definitely counter opportunities there.
Corruption, all the things that you just mentioned, those are another proof that great minds think alike, and many of them I wrote them down in my own notes. But also there is something that I wrote about his hand speed that I'm going to mention. By the way, I haven't started reading my notes in regards to Murata and his fighting style. I haven't done it yet. So yeah, I'm going to do it. But just to piggyback of you briefly mentioning the fact that Golovkin has been working with Jonathan Bex for a while. Well, I would like to go back to it for a second, and again, his last fight. But see, many people criticize him for his performance against Derevyanchenko, who, before that fight, I was telling to people on multiple podcasts, in the chat rooms, etc., that this is not going to be a hard fight, easy fight for Golovkin because of the clash of the styles, and many of them were very surprised with how hard that fight went for Triple G, and just only after the fight, it was the other people that told me that even before the fight, Banks was speaking even before the fight that he did not like that fight for Golovkin because it was the very first fight with Banks as his new coach, and that he needed more time to adapt to each other. And to me, the last fight was against Sheremetya. Again, to me, it was a proof that there is improvement, and I saw a lot of improvements. I even mentioned them in our post-fight show. But just to briefly remind people what I saw in that fight, and I saw it rewatching the first two rounds of that fight yesterday, I think. See Golovkin, who's been always criticized by people who are not really paying attention to his boxing, that he didn't have enough of head movement, which is a pure BS to me. But against Sheremetya, his head movement and even counter punching was more pronounced than ever. And basically against Sheremetya, he was in some regards fighting kind of like Canelo when he was a pure counterpuncher. He was counterpunching the shit out of Sheremetya and timing him very well, which I was surprised to see, because Golovkin is at that age where I was not expecting him to adopt such a style where he would be, using his reflexes as much, timing more than ever. But it looked very well, and he looked very sharp to me. And the way he's always setting up punches perfectly, the way he was going to the body with the right hook, I really like that performance. And as long as Golovkin shows up in a similar shape against Murata, I would expect him to beat Murata. But yeah, Murata, he has his own strong points as well as flaws. Now, I don't know if you want me to start right now reading them, or do you want to add something about it before?
Yeah, very quickly, with the fight you mentioned with the Polish Sheremetya, he was a good Golovkin. I agree with you, and I really don't understand the criticism. But Golovkin, I think, official, is probably the most polarizing fighter in world boxing, bar none. A lot
Yeah,
of people, like to hate him and obviously pick all of his opposition and criticize his. It's interesting. The other day, on a chat forum, somebody was criticizing Golovkin's resume and saying that he's a bum basher, has been fighting bums. You know, he was the person who wrote this was a Charlo fan, and he's like, look, Charlo would have knocked out XYZ straight away. And I just responded to him and saying, look, you're criticizing Golovkin's resume and you're supporting Charlo. So why did Charlo fight Dermianchenko after Golovkin? And that was that's Charlo's main opponent on pay-per-view. So why are you fighting a bum then?
excellent point.
To which he couldn't respond. So that is the problem. It's just contemporary hate without any logical reason. So probably wise not to. And I don't normally do that, because one thing I realize with all these cotton pickers and neolifically incompetent fools out there is that you can't educate them because they're not willing to be educated. It's just blind hatred. It's just that inbred propensity they have. Even if you present them with a very compelling argument to sort of decree that they're wrong, they will never. They'll either ignore you, terminate the conversation, block you, or call you a hater. And it's generally those four characteristics that that they don't have the ability to respond. So it no longer bothers me. It's just they're all idiots stuck within a perpetual sort of universe, just a deluded sort of existence. So no point in this. So it doesn't matter that whether we have a small audience, but hopefully it's a small audience that appreciate boxing. If there's criticism to level to even the fighters who we support or have admiration for, then so be it. But we try and stay unbiased and try and stay neutral. There is no fanboyism here. It's just there's admiration for fighters. Fighters are doing great things, and there's only a very small amount of numbers out there doing it, and a lot of them have not even been recognized. And with Gonzalez being thrown out of the pound for pound rankings and then recently put back in, it's almost like justification for people like us who have supported him justifiably through and through. And it just proves the point that these people and these writers, they all have, they're not independent. They're all affiliated to a certain publication or a television channel that specifically promotes a group of fighters. So their opinion should just be ignored as well, because they're not independent. So we're independent. We're doing this for the love of boxing. We're not getting no recompense or super chats and all this shit. We're doing this for the love. I mean, we're sacrificing time off our work to come and do this and do film studies and putting them on our channels and getting, the transsexual Navarro Heyman knocking them down after all of your hard work. We're the ones who are suffering, man. We're in the doghouse, man, but we still do it for for the love of boxing. So yeah, people should pay attention to these channels. A few of them scattered around here and there, doing great things. So yeah, I'd rather. So the point being, I know that was a little bit extended. I'd rather listen to these guys, not those media guys and all those dick riders, the great Canelo Alvarez and admiring his Bugatti. I tell you what, piss on his Bugatti and then set fire with you in it, Fight Hub, you motherfucker.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Man, obsessed with other men's cars and money, man. this is the fucking boxing media, man. This is what these youngsters are looking at, man. These people are destroying the sport now, as if it wasn't fucked up already, man.
Yeah, unfortunately. And yeah, I mean, nothing more to add to the points about Chocolatito Gonzalez and Triple G. I mean, yeah, for Gonzalez, for Chocolatito, who after many pound for pound lists, listing him back on their pound for pound lists, all this time we were asking why he left your pound for pound list in first place, just because he didn't have the backing of a big network as he had on HBO. And that's the only reason. But very shortly after that, he was back. Same thing. I mean, and look, again, I'm not trying to shit on Canelo, but this is just facts. I mean, people are praising him for becoming the undisputed champion in 168 at the worst possible division, one of the worst divisions in current boxing. And then his performances were not that good. I mean, he improved his strength, etc. He even changed his style that I covered very well. And yeah, but they don't mention that he struggled against Plant. I mean, not struggle. Not I'm not trying to say that he was in a danger of being knocked out, but he was visibly frustrated. People are not really looking. They don't know how to analyze and break down fights. I mean, they're praising him and blowing him up to be number one pound for pound. Meanwhile, I mean, Golovkin, who, okay, he fought Sheremeta, who is not a top class opponent, but knowing what I know and knowing how to analyze the fights, I saw that he was very sharp in that fight. Now, of course, there is a good reason for which Canelo spent 4 more years without fighting Golovkin before choosing to finally have a rubber match with him. Because Golovkin is getting old, of course, and his body is breaking down, and it's just uh, a question of when he's going to really, when are we going to in how many fights we are going to see him clearly deteriorate. So,
It is
but
sad, isn't it? It is
yeah,
sad.
yeah,
Canelo Alvarez, this punk motherfucker, the biggest fraud in boxing. I mean, this guy who basically should have 6 to 8 defeats on his record if you really go down and analyze those fights.
yeah,
Even I actually watched it the other day and rescored it myself. And I was probably the only person over these years saying that Miguel Cotto had the better of Canelo Alvarez, and people were calling me insane 3, 4 years ago when I was saying it on the pound for pound boxing report and the other shows I was doing. Cotto was magnificent in that fight, and certain people have rescored it subsequently properly, and they've it's become sort of explicitly clear to them as well that Cotto was the better boxer, was outlanding him, was more aggressive even during the exchanges, and Canelo in his frustration, what he would do, he would just low blow, hurt the opponent to be exasperated in pain, and then he'll try and leap on you and try and wing away punches, and commentators will be like, "What a body shot!" Man, the guy might not have kids ever again, man. After that body shot, man, his crown
that's
jewels are
true.
no longer, man.
Yeah, I mean, look, that particular fight, watching it
Yeah,
live, watching
yeah,
it live, I was not paying too much attention because I had friends at my place and we were drunk. But watching it live, I was thinking like Cotto was outboxing the shit out of him, and then, but a few days later, rewatching it, but it was many years ago, just a few days after the fight taking place. When I rewatched it, I thought that Canelo won 7 rounds to 5, but it's a question now how would I rescore it? But definitely Cotto definitely gave him a fantastic fight while being severely undersized in that fight.
Yeah,
The
absolutely.
Canelo win.
The only
And
thing that,
yeah, sorry for cutting you off. Just real quickly, I want
yeah,
to give shout out to everybody in the chat room, from Nordic Warrior, John Gonzalez, Vader D, Alan R, uh, Intangible Boxing News, and sorry, John Gonzalez saying corruption with the best rant I heard in a while. 100%. Yeah.
hey, John, everybody else Nordic and that nice too. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, but by the way, I agree with John, not because we are doing this podcast together, but I absolutely love hearing your rants every single time. They're legendary.
Yeah, I miss not being in the chat with those guys. It was always good having a conversation with them. But I had that extremely turbulent period for a year and a half where I was away from boxing. But I'll try and get back into some of those groups. But yeah, official. I think it's time for your. I've been waiting for this as well. For your meticulous break by break, step by step breakdown of your style, because yeah, man, this should be good.
Yeah. I'll repeat it again. It's just such a shame that I didn't have time to prepare the video material to follow it with the video footage, because it would be much easier to understand. But however, I'm going to read it out. And by the way, just letting everybody know that I was unable to finish the punch count of Triple G versus Canelo rematch, but it's going to be up soon. So unfortunately, I was not able to finish it before the fight against Murata, but expect it on our channel very soon. And
Yeah, very
yeah,
quickly, if during the interim you're very disappointed and you're dying for a punch stat count, I've got a Julius Ndongo one and Terence Crawford. So if anybody wants that, I can put
uh,
that up.
okay, so okay, let me start reading this out. So Murata is a textbook fighter, working off his jab, straight or overhand right and left hook. So a typical 1-2-3 fighter. He's a hard puncher. He's tough and pretty much, however, pretty much upright. Watching his previous fights, I was thinking about how much he reminds me of Kose Tanaka, with the exception that he doesn't have nearly the same athletic gifts in speed and explosiveness as him, only for me to find out that Tanaka's father was in his corner for the fight against Brent. Now, style-wise, I could also compare him to Charlo or even Golovkin himself, but that just shows you how great of a fighter Golovkin is, meaning stylistically he's very similar to Murata, but has many more subtleties in every single facet of his boxing while having the same style. Like, for example, many various ways in which he uses his jab, not to mention the other things. So that was a quick breakdown of his style, how I see him. Second point, Murata's open for straight punches as he pivots when his opponents are using the lateral movement. Triple G was doing this to a great extent against Canelo in the rematch by stepping to the right and leading with the straight right through Canelo's guard as Canelo was turning to the angle that Golovkin stepped at. Next point. Murata's good at timing the orthodox opponents with his overhand right when they're pivoting as well on their foot, and when they're moving laterally to their left. What I'm trying to describe is of how what's his name? The guy that the Detroit guy who fought who lost against Chavez, Meldrick Taylor. Like Meldrick Taylor all the time was jabbing Chavez while moving to his left and pivoting on his left foot. And what Chavez in the second half of the fight started doing with a great success was timing the jab while Meldrick Taylor was pivoting on his left foot and catching him with the overhand right. So I saw that Murata is good at it. So I think that Golovkin needs to, to make sure, he's careful, because it's especially seen with Murata's opponent when they throw a slow jab or a lazy jab, or are feinting a jab while keeping their jabbing hand low. Next point. Murata is very open for the left jab, as he always carries his right glove to the side of his face, and
Yep.
a lot of times that right glove isn't even close to his face. More so, every single time when Murata jabs, he moves his right glove away from his face as he jabs. And not only that, but his right elbow is all the way up in the air instead of covering his body while he's throwing the jab. But the good side of this bad habit is that that's exactly what makes Murata's 1-2 very quick, when especially when he chooses to follow his jab with a straight right instead of an overhand right, because his overhand right can be very often very telegraphed and slow, and like you said earlier, he I do agree with you that he's not he doesn't have a hand speed that does bother Golovkin, but however I've seen him being able to slip in quick 1-2s. However, this lack of guard exposes him to Golovkin's own jab, possibly even left hook to the body, but I'm not sure if Golovkin is going to throw as many body punches as he used to at this point of his career. Next point, one more way Murata's jab could be timed is with the overhand right. Next point, Alto Golovkin, and that's something that you mentioned earlier. Alto Golovkin is not a natural counterpuncher. At least I don't see him that way. I can also see him timing Murata's jab with the right uppercut, which he was
Yeah.
doing against Canelo in the rematch as well. The good side of Murata's jab is that it is hard, it can be quick, he has a long range, and he can even time the opponents very well with it. Um, Now, Murata's 1-2s can be very telegraphed for four different reasons that I'm about to mention. First one, when he follows his jab with the overhand right, as he always telegraphs that particular punch, and there's a time window big enough to disrupt him in between those two punches. Second reason is what makes him telegraph the overhand right even more is when his opponent take just a step back as Murata is stepping in with 1-2. This makes him load up on his overhand even more and makes him try to reach out his target, so it gets him off balance and excuse me, and it makes his overhand right even more telegraphed. Third point, very often when he throws his jab, he likes to keep it extended in front of his opponent, so he can frame them or stiff arm them with it. So that's the third reason why his 1-2s can be telegraphed and easy to predict. And the fourth point is he also tends to throw his jab one same way by stepping in a way that becomes telegraphed and easy to anticipate his footwork as he's stepping in with his jab, and so it can neutralize his jab, and Triple G is very good at it. Um, Next, hold on, let me scroll down. Next point is Murata absolutely needs to set his feet in order to punch. And so it means that Golovkin, with his footwork, with his lateral steps or step backwards, forward, can really disrupt his offense. Kind of like he was doing against Canelo in the rematch, in fact. Next point, Murata's classic high guard can be easily manipulated, just like you said earlier. Straight punches are leaving him fully open for the overhand rights, and the left hooks. However, on the other hand, looping punches are leaving him fully open for the straight punches and uppercuts. So basically, what I'm trying to say is that when you start your combos with looping punches, he tries to defend from them, and so it really opens up his guard for the straight punches down the middle, and it works the other way as in other sense as well. When you start your combos with straight punches, it really leaves his guard open on the sides for the looping punches. So next point. Beside framing his opponents by keeping his jabbing arm extended in front of them after throwing a jab, Murata also likes stiff arming his opponents and even pushing them down with that left jabbing hand right into his right uppercut, like Lennox Lewis, only from a longer range than Lewis used to do it, because Lennox used to do it at very short range. Next point. Murata is able to time his opponents very well with short left hook or uppercuts when they lower their upper body at mid-range. So I've seen that especially against Brent, because Brent, when he was there in the pocket, throwing his flurries, he would very often overuse his upper body movement at mid-range and leave himself completely uncovered. And Murata was able to, although he very often telegraphs his punches, he was indeed able to sneak in some very compact left hooks and uppercuts. And
But with Golovkin, he tends to more dip now. You see with Sarameta will be swinging. Instead of just moving your upper body, Golovkin would dip, duck underneath it, and then come up with that left hook, which floored him. So he tends to implement a little bit of that now. So I don't think that's going to trouble Golovkin too much in terms of just, tweaks, little tiny amounts of upper body movement. I think he will physically try and get the fuck out of those punches by doing that, man. Backing up, back, as he does, turning him or just ducking underneath those blows. But given that Murata is obviously taller as well, 6 foot, so Golovkin I think he'll get right underneath, out of the way those punches, and then come up with those uppercuts or hooks. But what do I know?
No. In fact, it's a fantastic point that I didn't have in my mind. But as you mentioned that first knockdown sequence, I clearly remember it because I was watching it just yesterday. And so, yeah, but the thing is, I would also say because Brent, when he was doing it, he was throwing his flurries fully open without expecting a counter left hook. However, Golovkin was not aimlessly open at that mid-range dipping. He only dipped in order for a split second in order to counterpunch Sheremeta after setting him up with a trap. So yeah, Golovkin, he was deep in that fight, but he was not like there. He did it just only for a split second when he purposely made Sheremeta throw a punch and then dipped and counter with the left hook. So yeah, Golovkin should be safe. Ultimately, I agree with your view that this should not bother Golovkin. But yeah, so there are a few more points three more points that I wrote down. So Murata is able to time. Oh no! I just read it. So just like Kose Tanaka and many other Japanese fighters, Murata likes to set up his left hooks to the body with straight right. He may find this very useful against Golovkin, since at his age the punch resistance tends to weaken, and at Golovkin's age And as we have seen against Derevyanchenko, when he's made to put up a high guard and lean forward in exchanges at mid-range, he leaves his liver exposed because he leans forward with a high guard covering his his chin and his body in front of him, but as he leaning forward, his liver is right behind and exposed. So in that sense, I think that it could be dangerous to Golovkin hitting a body shot. But the weak point for Murata is that he telegraphs that liver shot so much, and he leaves himself fully exposed for the left hook and uppercut. And I've seen that I've seen Brandt doing this constantly against Murata, because Robert Brandt in the first fight clearly figured out how Murata was setting up this left hook to the body, and while he's setting it up, he's fully opened, and so Rob Brandt was timing him, countering him with left hook many times. So, but he was just unable to hurt him because he's not too big of a puncher. So yeah, and even earlier you mentioned it yourself. You would expect Golovkin to counter him with uppercuts, and I also expect him, to counter him with left hook when Murata is trying to throw that setup straight right to set up that left hook to the body, because there's, again, just like with his jab and overhand right, also with his straight right, in between his straight right and left hook to the body, there's a big time window. He's telegraphing that he's loading up too much on it, and he's not covering himself in the process. So I can easily see Golovkin catching him with hooks and uppercuts. The last point, in overall, Murata may need to find his luck in brawling, in quick straight right hand and body shots, as he's a younger fighter, as he's very tough, and I don't doubt that he will step into the ring in the best possible shape, as most of the Japanese fighters do. And just like most of them, I do not doubt that he will keep on pushing and demonstrate a big heart. Um, and I'm not trying to make it sound romantic, but it seems to me that the war of attrition would be his best bet. You know, trying to exploit the possible physical deterioration of Gennady Golovkin. So yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
that's it.
yeah, great. Yeah, you've done a lot more research than me, but yeah, Murata. But with the Kosei Tanaka, you know, I mean, he ultimately paid the price for not having a jab against an offbeat boxer, and that was his problem. And you're right, Brian Murata has shown some signs that he does the same, and early on, and Dan was just piecing him because his jab wasn't even there. So in that fight, particularly, you could see just how bad his approach was when he's trying to obviously cut the distance, even though he's a bigger fighter, but he wants to fight at a certain distance where he can unload. But when he's trying to navigate all of the missiles and that are coming in from a distance to try and stop him, and then hopefully try and brawl with somebody at at a mid or a close range like he likes to do, especially winging that that left hook to his body, which was having success after. But early on, yeah, he does tend to get hit with a hell of a lot of shots with that. So yeah, Golovkin. If Golovkin has his Lemieux jab, just hypothetically, if he does have that weapon and it's still handy, and he's able to hit him in regulation straight from the outset, then because that jab is a power punch, it's going to do damage far more than what say Endama or Rob Brand were doing. So it's going to be the first 3 rounds are going to be very interesting. But with Golovkin, he doesn't tend to does too well with body shots, or that he's not bothered. But when he's getting hit to the body and he's getting bothered, you can see him because he adjusts his arm position and he gets his elbows down, so you can see he's feeling the punches. But with that as well, he's taken a hell of a lot of low blows as well. So it's hard to
Yeah,
differentiate. I mean, what is exactly hurting him, what isn't? Because Canelo, what did he hit him with? What, 45 low blows in the second fight? How many did Dermianchenko hit him with? What, 60 odd low blows? I don't know, man. He got warned 6 times straight away, and no point deductions for either guy. So, you know, if you've taken one of those punches, certainly to the solar plexus, man, that's the most painful. That's the most painful punch I've taken, not to the kidney, but when I got hit to the solar plexus, man, it just, if you smoked a couple of reefers before and you get hit there, oh man, you ain't getting you ain't getting up in the morning. Uh, yeah, yeah, that's like your whole air, your entire lung capacity is just gone, man. And you're just like vibrating and stuff. That took a long time to recover. Kidney punches would hurt, but you can generally get up and continue, etc. But it is pain. But with those punches and punches to the lower abdomen and low blows, man, that's, I don't know. It's going to be, how many. I don't know from all of the work, all of the research you've done. I don't know how much you've seen of Murata and his low blows, but depending on whether the referee's going to tolerate them or not, but Murata is going to be targeting that body, man, and he's going to be targeting down south as well because he's a reckless abandonment fighter. He doesn't care, man. So it's going to be interesting. Yeah, if I don't know who's adjudicating, but if the referee and nowadays the referees are not even giving fighters time to recover. There's none of that. Have you ever seen a fighter take a full 5 minutes? I've never seen that in the last, I don't know, 100 odd fights.
yeah. It's been a long time, man. And
Yeah, it's almost like the referee's putting pressure on them to hurry up and continue.
yeah,
And these
yeah.
fighters, yeah, it's fucking ludicrous, man. That he should have 5 minutes. You should not bother the fighter. The fighter should intimate to you, I'm ready to continue. The
When
only
he's
time the
ready to
referee
get
should
back.
come to the fighter is to say, your 5 minutes is up. You have to fight on now. Or if you don't want to
Yeah,
fight, I'm stopping the fight. Period.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. It's a fucking joke, man.
Oh, by the way, yeah, I just went on to BoxRec to see
Yeah.
the referees and the judges. Yeah, I think I'm not sure, but I think this is a terrible, terrible referee. Uh, you correct me if I'm wrong. The ref is Luis Pabon.
Luis Pavon was refereeing when Murata fought in Dam in Japan that time.
Uh, but I think I don't know if I heard it or from where I heard it, or was it from Thunderdome or someone else. But I think hearing that someone was mentioning him in a very very bad light as a ref, but I may be completely wrong.
He's a bad referee, very bad referee. He's going to allow low blows, rabbit punching, holding, clinching, whatever, man, headbutts. Yeah, he's gonna tolerate all of that. I think he's got some sort of unofficial contract in Japan. He seems to do a lot of work over there. He seems to do a lot of. I'm gonna have a look. How many times has Pavon adjudicated a Murata fight? It's got to be at least 3, 4 times. I'll have a look, but I think he's done a few of his fights.
I'll check it right now as you're
It's
speaking.
probably it's probably on that Ryota Japanese concubine showgirl playlist, man.
So against Rob Brandt, the rematch against Rob Brandt,
Yeah,
then the first fight against Hassan Endam,
told you. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
and
How, if you look at the probability, Murata hasn't fought a lot. So to have a referee who's done what 3, 4 of his fights out of 6, And Luis Pavone is American based. That's quite unusual. That's a
Yeah,
specific referee. I think they've requested.
yeah, very possible. And plus, on top of that,
Yeah,
I was kind of expecting whoever the referee is, he's going to show, to be favorable in Murata's favor when it comes to low blows and the other
yeah,
type of dirty shit, just because it's taking place in Japan. So I was already expecting it, uh, whoever the judges. And yeah, so whoever the referees. And the judges are Glenn Feldman, Robert Hoyle, and Alex Levin.
Glenn Philman should not even be injured. They should they should send him to an old American prisoner of war camp. He shouldn't be there at all.
Yeah.
Who are the other two?
Robert Hoyle and Alex Levin.
Interesting. Okay. Mm. Whether it goes to the judges or not, I'm not sure. But I think given Louis Pavon's tolerance for that sort of thing, I think what Golovkin did in the second fight with Canelo, with his jab, right hand, turn, sometimes straight right hand, then back, then turn, then jab, and what he was doing there, that's very wise tactics against somebody like that, man. Just jab, right hand,
Sorry,
uppercut, then turn. Don't let him set his feet because he tends to take a long time sometimes on that left foot.
corruption.
Yeah,
Sorry for cutting you off. You're starting to sound really bad, as if you're talking through from the water, as if you were under the water.
yeah, it's where I am in Den Haag, man.
Oh,
It's a pretty isolated place. Is that still bad?
oh no, no, no.
Is that okay?
It sounds nice. Yeah.
Okay. I was mentioning what Golovkin needs to do, given all of these intangibles we discussed with the referee, and that what he was doing in the second Canelo fight with his jab, right hand turn, keep turning Canelo, right hand, uppercut, jab, jab after the right hand. What he was doing there, I think, a very wise tactics with somebody like this guy, man, to stop those rabbit punches, stop those potential low blows, try and create some distance, maybe even keep the fight a little bit long, even though you're firing power punches with both hands. I think that is wise, man. He's got to keep turning him. Don't let him set his feet and turn the other way. What Rob Brand was doing in the first fight, you see, because you mentioned it in your breakdown, and Murata was having great deal of trouble with fighters who was turning in that direction because because his left hand then become a little bit telegraphed, and then Brand was able to counter him with his own left hand. So if
Yeah.
Golovkin can turn that way, and we know he's got a mean motherfucking left hook, especially to the body with that cattle prod like we did to Matthew Macklin. If you can go turn that way, then boom, fire that to the body, especially with Murata with his right hand away from his guard position, where because he's looking to fire his own right hand. That'll work, man. I think that left counter left from Golovkin and the right uppercut, the counter left hook, I think to the body will work, and the right uppercut, given that side of his guard position and his hand, and the telegraph nature of the way he's firing that left hook. So those potentially look to be the two main openings he can exploit.
Yeah, yeah, I do agree with you, and I really do like his right uppercut. The chances of his right uppercut hurting Murata. I'll get into it in a second, but yeah, also what I've seen him doing from very nice against Sheремeta, throwing that overhand right upstairs, overhand right upstairs. But then when Sheремeta started, covering himself upstairs, he went. I mean, a real, really simple variation, but yet useful. He went down to the body with the right hook. And so at one point, Sheremetyev didn't know if he was supposed to expect the right hand, the looping right hand upstairs or downstairs. By the way, yeah, I have two things to say. First of all, like you said earlier, Golovkin's jab is going to be way more hurtful than Rob Brandt's power punches, slapping power punches. So it's just another point, as if we needed any more points, how these TV networks and the boxing establishment is trying to brainwash the boxing public, because they made that separation in between jabs and power punches. I mean, it's a complete nonsense, and people are believing that they're even scoring fights that way because they think it's a legitimate way to score the fight, just because they've seen CompuBox. Well, by the way, always fake. I might add, always fake CompuBox numbers. The second point is about Golovkin's jab and right uppercuts that you mentioned just moments ago. See, against Canelo, what I've seen him doing while I started doing this punch count video that we are going to publish soon. So Golovkin, yeah, he was throwing his. By the way, he was throwing multiple kinds of jabs against Canelo in the rematch, but he was throwing his ramrod jab, hard jab, really aiming at Canelo's face and landing with it, and he was hurting Canelo, etc. But one other type of jab that he was throwing was kind of thrown a jab thrown kind of with mechanics of a left hook, where he was not he was throwing it kind of to the left side of Canelo's face, and this particular jab that he was throwing was not aimed to hurt, really hurt or disrupt Canelo, but more aiming at his left glove, and for two reasons. I think that's how he prevented Canelo from landing a lot of counter left hooks. So he was with that jab, kind of looping jab that was ending over Canelo's left glove. He was preventing Canelo from throwing a counter left hook. And second of all, and I was able to see a proof of it in the later stages of the fight. He was also throwing it to provoke Canelo's jab. And the Canelo's jab, by the way, was excellent in the rematch against Triple G. But many times he was setting him up. Golovkin was setting him up, provoking him with that light jab to throw a jab. Canelo to throw a jab himself, so he can dip to the right and throw the uppercut. And in the later stages, he hurt him. I mean, he not necessarily hurt him, but rocked him a couple of times with the right uppercut after slipping Canelo's jab. So I would expect him to do the same thing against Murata, to make him throw his jab, then slip to the right and right uppercut from the angle.
Yeah. See, ultimately, with Gennady, I mean, people are talking a little bit prematurely about the Alvarez fight, whether that is part of Canelo's 2-fight deal or not. But ultimately, you never know with a 40-year-old. Great fighters do have that renaissance and can carry on and re-emerge and rebuild themselves and even reinvent themselves. Nonito Donaires come back late. Gonzalez came back as well, and although he wasn't age-wise that old, but in terms of boxing, in terms of fights, fight-wise, but not in terms of what people don't seem to realize. And I hear it all the time. They talk about Gennady, Romans, changed his style so much. No, he really hasn't. That's for people who haven't really watched him. He's never really taken damage in a lot of those earlier fights, nor was he significantly troubled. There were one or two rematches, when Chiquita Rosas, he had to rematch him. The first fight was a tough fight, but he came back. So there wasn't a great deal of difficulty. So he never really sustained that much punches. And even his defense, although he was aggressive and a power puncher, he really wasn't taking that many punches flush either. Although the chin is still sturdy because you're young and you can recover a hell of a lot quicker. And what people don't seem to realize when they're talking about smaller weight fighters is, they throw a lot of punches. And that it's all about the lungs, because the size of the lungs in terms of the lung capacity is roughly the same size in most men, irrespective of their sizes. So with these smaller fighters, their lungs are able to generate oxygen at a far greater frequency rate, and more importantly, the oxygen to repair the muscles from taking punches. That's why smaller fighters are able to throw more punches and have better endurance and can recover easily. It's got nothing to do with that they throw so many punches and they don't get knockouts. It's because their bodies repair far quickly because of the lung capacity in relation to the rest of their body. The ratio is much smaller, so they recover a lot quicker. That's the reason, the scientific reason. You hear a lot of people talking about it and they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. They hear, oh, these guys can't punch or this or that, the other, but they don't understand, the biology and the mechanics of the human body. But ultimately, we don't know, and we'll have to see, whether there has been any further slowdown or degradation, or whether his punch resistance now. But I don't know. I don't think he's going to just fall off the cliff like that. I can't see that. I think if anything, he was starting to show a little bit of hand speed with Sarameta. So maybe he was just experimenting a little bit, taking a bit off his punching power, but still he was increasing his punch power on the counters, really teeing off and loading up. But other times he was just nice hand speed, a little bit of power off, a little bit of variation. I liked what I saw, actually. It was a really fun fight. So no, that wasn't although Sarameta wasn't, a great, a great test, because we saw what Jaime Munguia did to him subsequently. So he wasn't a great fighter by any stretch of the imagination. But I guess in the way, it was a good fight. You got a title, you want to come back, you've got a new trainer. You already had one fight with Steve Rolls with him. Now you want to try something new with him, build that relationship. You've got a better rapport. Now he's had a further, couple of years with him as well. So, if he brings some of that Kronk gym punching power, boxing punching power boxing, going for the knockouts, should be a great fight. I'm expecting a war. I think Murata talked about it as well, that he's going to have to stand and trade and go for it, and perhaps die on his shield sort of mentality. I can only see it being a barn burner.
Yeah. And look, 2 points. So yeah, Golovkin, I mean, we could never know for sure. He may even show a huge he may even show huge signs of regression in this very fight. We never know. But I would say the reason why me and you both expect him to show the regression gradually rather than his skills at nose diving is that we know not only that he's a great and underrated technical fighter on the highest level, but also that there is working ethic and with him and that he's serious. So that's a common thing that him and Pacquiao and Chocolatito Gonzalez and Donaire and the other great fighters that we appreciate, that all of them share together, that they're consummate professionals. And so I would say that's probably the reason why they're able to perform at the highest level at a very late age. Now, my second point is, let me take a moment to praise you and to praise the coup d'etat of boxing. I mean, for what you just said moments ago. I mean, you just told something that no one ever said out of all the boxing panelists from all the YouTube channels, etc. And I heard it for the first time on this show. So the lungs, the size of the lungs compared to fighters. So the size of the lungs stayed the same, but yeah, uh, pound for pound in comparison to fighters' weight, it explains why they have the lower weight division have such a high activity and pace. I mean, that was an underrated and a fucking great common corruption.
It's like birds when they're traveling long distances, they have air sacs compared to, the birds that, or pigeons, or some of these other birds that only, migrate very small distances because they don't have those air sacs. So those birds, given the same size of the body, they can just travel a hell of a lot more. Plus, they can deal with the air resistance and bad weather, the weight equivalent to, like, taking punches or whatever, and they can just fly, up to 2,500 meters. Miles if they have to. They can just, because of those air sacs, which is similar to the way lungs work on smaller weight fighters.
Well, all I'm going to say is I wish that he was my biology professor.
No, I'll be. Yeah, I would have been teaching you about, making crystal meth, and it would have been like Breaking Bad in Serbia. But it would have been chemistry instead.
Great one. So bad.
It was like, in that film Ali G, when he's finally got into government or whatever, on that, and he's trying to reshape the national curriculum, and he's teaching, instead of mathematics, but he's teaching kids about, it, about buying marijuana and how to cut up a block into whatever, an eighth into a quarter, and if he wants to make this much profit, how much weed does he have to sell? That realigning it in a sort of math, that'd sort of be my syllabus, I think.
Yeah.
Practical mathematics that we all need.
Yeah. Well said. Corruption for the Ministry of Education.
Is there any significant fight on the undercard? I've got no idea on that particular card.
Yeah, good that you just brought it, because I mean, there's Junto Nakatani fighting on the undercard. However, I think it's a showcase fight. So, but there's also Masayuki Ito. Hold on, let me see. I'm going to Golovkin box track.
That's another fighter who lacks a jab, and that is why he lost his world title. No jab. He's just looking to set up his right hand. It's a big problem. I don't know what sort of coaching is going on in Japan. Their fundamentals is just not there. I see it with a lot of their new young fighters. Junto is different. He's a bit of a beast. He can fight.
Oh,
Not
yeah.
only can he Yeah, he can box, but he can fight as well. If you're gonna go toe to toe with him, he's got that physicality, but he's got mean streak as well. So he's got he's got a great ability to unify titles. And let's hope they get him some big fights, because if he's beaten Angel Acosta and that a real heavy-handed puncher, and before the facial damage, whatever. But Nakatani, what broke his nose or his jaw, can't seem to remember, but it's heavy-handed as well, so that's good.
Oh yeah,
But
yeah. Such a talented fighter. I mean, and when I was analyzing his fight, I
yeah,
I've seen a lot of Usyk in him. Not only because he's a southpaw, but the way he's or even a bit of Chocolatito, like Usyk only at the closer range. I've seen, but anyways, he has a sleeve full of tricks. So yeah, he's a very talented fighter. Yeah, so I'm on Backstrack currently.
okay.
So Junto Nakatani is fighting Ryota Yamauchi. I don't know who that is. So also on the undercard, Masayuki Ito is fighting Shuichiro Yoshino, and then there's the main event. So I don't know who is this guy Yoshino. Haven't seen him yet. A lightweight, 14-0.
He's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
I didn't realize he's fighting Ito. I think Ito's in trouble, man. Big
you
time.
think so?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
So a free betting advice for corruption that I will take as well. So it's Yoshino over Ito.
So Ito's moved up to lightweight. That's why I was thinking that's a bizarre fight. He was fighting at he was fighting at Jamel Herring's weight. What's that? That's hold on. This fight's at 135. Yeah, are you sure?
Yeah, 100% sure. 135. Well, I'm currently on his page, and
Masayuki Ito, the same guy we're talking about. Yeah.
Masayuki Ito. Yeah, right.
Okay. All right.
And so,
He was at
but
bantamweight just a few fights ago.
well, what I wanted to tell you is that he's been at this weight class since September of 2019. So this would be his fourth fight at this weight class.
Damn. So he
Yeah.
jumped up from
Yeah, right after fighting Jamel Herring, he jumped up.
okay. Haven't seen him because he's all of those free fights in Japan in 2008. I haven't seen any of his fights recently.
Yeah.
The fights after Herring were all of those fights in Japan or in this?
Yes, positive.
Yeah, yeah. How did he get on in those fights? Were they wins by points, knockouts?
After Herring, so
Yeah.
the first fight it was against some guy Ruben Manakane, who was 25 and 18 at the time. He TKO'd him in the sixth round. Then the next fight against Mishiro, he lost a majority decision. Then, yeah. Then the last fight, it was the last year against Valentin Hosokawa. He TKO'd Hosokawa in the eighth round.
I thought it might have been. Okay.
So it was TKO victory, then majority decision loss, then TKO victory.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that's one reason to. I hopefully the zone will be covering this fight as well. If not, I'll try and find out who's streaming. If not, I'll prefer to go on the Japanese stream itself. I'll see if I don't know if it's Fuji TV or somebody who's showing it. Somebody intangible, or somebody might know. I don't know who's.
Yeah, but by the way, I'm pretty much positive corruption that
Yeah.
the fight is going to be shown on the undercard. Now you may
Okay.
correct me. You may correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that usually what the Japanese are doing, they're basically broadcasting the three fights, two undercard fights, and
After the fight. Yeah.
no. I wanted to say usually what they do, they show two undercard two fights from the card and then the main event. At least that's what I was able to see. So those are three biggest fights. The three biggest fights on the card are Junto Nakatani's showcase fight, then Yoshino versus Masayoki Ito, and then the main event.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes they'll just show the main event and then show the two preliminary fights after the main event recorded.
Oh yeah, I think. In fact, I think it was the case with Ioka versus Tanaka.
Yeah, they've done that for a few fights. If they've got a card of above, if they have five, they tend to show the first two. They show the third and the fourth, then they'll show the main event, and then the first two after the main event, just to try and make it, which is a good idea. Trying to redact the card. No one's going to be watching for 3-4 hours, you know.
You're underwater again.
Oh, okay. Yeah, man.
But yeah, exactly. It's a pretty nice idea. I mean, if you want to showcase your fighters, I mean, those are usually your the proteges of a promoter, and then they're fighting a low level fight. No one is going to see them if they're the ones opening the show. So instead, many more people are going to see them right after the main event. It makes a lot of fucking sense.
So in the early hours on Saturday or Sunday morning, there's a fight card from the United States. Is it the Ryan Garcia card?
I think it's in the night between Saturday and Sunday for us in Europe.
Yeah. He's fighting an interesting guy, you know, Emmanuel Tago. He was managed by. Do you remember the former footballer Asamoah Gyan, who played in the Barclays English Premiership, but then he had a big money deal. Don't know where he went to. I think was it Middlesbrough? I don't know. I can't remember what club it was, but he went for some big, you know, some oil money, and then he just went out. Middle East or China, I can't remember, but he used to manage Tago. He may still do so, but I remember him years ago talking about Tago being the best new Ghanaian fighter, better than Isaac Dogbe, and better than Richard Comey. So he was really on his case. He's a good fighter, no doubt about it, but
sorry, go on.
But for me, he's not as good as the way Asamoah was, raving on. But he's managing him, so he's going to have a particular bias. But it's a tough fight, for Ryan Garcia has probably had things change by now. I think he would have recovered all of his, his hormone replacements, etc. So, it's probably, his vagina's probably got pubic hair now, so I think he's okay to fight. Tough fight. We'll see if he's been working with Joe Goosen, see how he looks. I think he's a good coach for him. He's been working with him before as well, so we'll see, but if he breaks his nail, Tago's going to give him some of that Ghanaian Gindwanda, as they say, he's going to level him up.
And so I'm on Tagoet profile. It says he's being managed by a certain Peter Khan. I don't know who. Peter Khan. Yeah,
I wonder
Peter.
yeah, I know Jean used to look after him and managed him earlier on years back. But he's what around 33-1 or something, isn't he? Because his record is something like that.
32-1.
Yeah. Yeah.
By the
Yeah.
way, on that card,
Yeah.
Gabriel Rosado is fighting Shane Mosley's son.
You're
And
joking.
no.
Shane, man, Shane Mosley's son was in The Good Fighter with that Irish kid who got leveled by Andrade. Oh, what was his name? The Golden Boy fighter.
I know who you're talking about, but I forgot
Yeah.
his name. Um,
He's terrible, but I can't remember his name. But yeah,
no,
Mosley's son is fighting
no,
Rosado. My God, man, he's gonna get smoked. Put your money on a Gabe knockout.
well, yeah.
I'm putting my money on Gabe straight away. I didn't even realize he was on the card. Gabe's a
Yeah,
good fighter, man. He's
and he go on. Sorry.
he's like an Orlando Salido, man. He might have a lot of defeats, man, but he'll fight and beat a hell of a lot of good people. So
That was kind of the point that I wanted to make. Yeah.
yeah.
He's a veteran who knows boxing, and he's very experienced. So, and he showcased it against Malik Uziev, that he's
Yeah.
patient.
Who's
Know what
yeah,
he's doing.
yeah, man. A lot of people were picking up Bektamir Melakuziev, weren't they?
Oh, don't even start me on that. I'm going to start to. I will be hating on someone really hard.
No, I mean in general, there was a lot of people. Man, he got smoked. He got murked. So Rosado. So good luck, Shane Mosley Jr., man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hold on. I'm looking the other fights. So, okay, Patrick Teixeira is going well. I don't know who is he fighting. Certain Paul Valenzuela Cuesta. Okay, so never heard of him. And then a fight you may be interested in. Marlon Esparza is fighting Fujioka.
Nah, we'll pass on that one. But then again, I'd rather watch Marlon than the Michaela Mayer or a Katie Taylor or some shit like that. Yeah. So,
Oh,
yeah. But I'll tell you a fight I am looking forward to, official, is that Hood Rat from Detroit against Savannah Marshall, the Peter Fury girl. That's a fight. Yeah, because I want to see that Hood Rat just get absolutely stretched out.
Look, I will have to agree with you on this one, although you know that I'm not really watching most of the women fights. But yeah, definitely. By the way, Savannah Marshall, she's the best skilled female boxer, probably along with Sunisa
Yeah.
Estrada. But yeah, I saw only one or two fights of Savannah Marshall, and I was very impressed, very surprised, because I never expected that kind of maturity to see it in women boxing. She really is on another level in comparison to the other female fighters that I've seen up till
Where
now.
she separates herself is not only can she box because she's tall and long, but not only can she punch, and I mean murderous powerful woman, but her defense, her ability to block and parry, a little bit like Roman at times. She'll parry with elbows and forearms and whatever. Very good. You don't see that defense in women anywhere.
Yeah, and what I particularly seen that I like from her is
Yeah.
her ring IQ. She's really thinking there in the ring, and her footwork also.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Official, you know who Clarissa Shields reminds me of?
Clarence Seedorf.
Clarissa Shields, she reminds me of Kurt Angle, the former wrestler in the WWF or E whatever years ago. You know how Kurt Angle is a
No idea.
genuine. He's what it is. He won a gold medal, Olympic gold medal. So he's a very talented sort of Roman Greco style wrestler. He won the gold medal with a broken neck as well
Oh,
at the Olympics. Now, when the Wrestling Federation, Vince McMahon's company, signed him, his gimmick as a heel, as a somebody who pisses off the crowd, etc. But that's how they do it. It was that he would always, whenever he'd get confronted, he'd always say to them, what's that around my neck is a gold medal. Where's yours? That'd be the sort of gimmick. And Clarissa Shields does the same. Whenever she's confronted with somebody, she'd be like, she'd start panicking, go, I've got 2 gold medals. How many have you got? That's the only thing she ever says, man. She starts panicking and she's obviously limited in fucking her brain capacity, man. I got gold medal. What have you got? It's just that petty, insolent, childish thing. So
bro,
it's just Kurt Angle was doing it as a gimmick, but that's who she reminds me of, man. It's the same thing, man.
by the way, you can hear me, okay? I had a problem with my mic. Yeah, I had
Yeah.
no idea about this Kurt Angle or whatever his name is. I had no
Yeah.
idea about this gimmick.
Look into just go Kurt Angle early WWE. You see him like with he'd always come in the ring with his gold medal around his waist, and he'd be showing it and rubbing it in people's faces. It's Clarissa Shields over and over again, man.
Yeah, I mean, as we know that she carries her gold medal in her purse. I would guess she also carries it when she goes to take a dump as well.
Yeah.
She goes to bed with it around her neck.
Yeah, that's what Savannah should do. She should just like knock her out on the canvas and then just go over to a corner and just steal her medals, man, and say you ain't getting them back. And just put them on eBay in the evening or something.
Yeah, but to be honest with you, I don't even like talking about her, given her the air and space, because I mean that's exactly what she's looking for with her behavior and her complaining about women in boxing being underpaid. Tell that to Chocolatito, the others, by the way. I mean,
Get the fuck out of here, man. When you
yeah.
fight 3-minute rounds and you fight with 8-ounce gloves and proper rules of engagement, you not have like 48 fighters maximum worldwide in your weight categories combined. So you're fighting just rubbish. You're fighting less than one to the power of 16 in terms of the population.
I mean, Roman Gonzalez probably fought more championship fighters than more champions than there is fighters in her division.
Yeah, he has. You're right. Yeah, and what was it? 8, 16. 1/5 of them were Americans as well. So when you look at the ratio, that she's fought no one, man. It's a very early new sport, and you're calling yourself the GOAT. Come on, man. Just be a little bit, show a little bit of, intelligence. You can't be making such claims, but it doesn't matter. She's completely useless anyway. So Once that
Absolutely.
fight happens, we'll maybe I'll do a live stream. It'd be nice to call that one live when she's on the canvas, man.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, what her career consists of fighting the strippers and prostitutes. That's all. And speaking of going live, do you want to go to want us to go live for the cards tomorrow? I
Yeah, that's
mean, I will do it. I don't know if you want to participate.
what time does the card start Central European time?
That's a good question. So let me see.
Have you still got your DAZN subscription?
No, no, it's been
Okay.
canceled months ago. Hold on. See, I went on one particular streaming site to see the time, but I'm not sure which time is it.
I
Is
think
it?
it was. If I'm not mistaken, official, I think it's 10 a.m. Central European time. 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. is what time the card starts.
I think I heard that it's like 10 or 11. Sorry,
Okay, that's
but yeah,
that's
what
a
I'm saying.
fantastic time for us, man.
Yeah, finally.
You know,
And
bowl of cornflakes and some boxing in the morning, man. You can't beat it.
yes, by the way, I'm on
Yeah.
this one particular streaming site which is showing the time of the fights, but I don't
Okay.
know which time zone is this. It's probably the local time zone in Japan. It says 5:10 p.m.
Okay. All right.
So I don't know. It's probably the Japanese time zone.
Yeah. That's that's 7 o'clock Eastern Standard. So seven. No. Yeah. That's I don't know which city they're fighting in. I'm not sure.
Uh, I'll tell you in a second. In Saitama.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Oh, by the
It's gonna be 10 a.m.
hold on. There is a 7 hour difference in between Tokyo and France. So yeah, probably the noon in the noon.
Yeah.
But I don't know
Nice.
if it's the main event or the
All
card.
right. If you're going live, I'll yeah. Depending on it's normally Saturday is family time, but I'll try. I'll try.
Oh yeah, yeah. I forgot about it. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, never mind. In that case, if you're free, of course, it's going to be a pleasure to do it together. If not, I'll try to go live on my own. Anyways, you're going to get the link and whatever you
Sure.
join or not.
Any other fights? Anything we've missed over the weeks?
I think
Significant?
so. Just give me a moment to go see the fights. I know that there are one or two more cards
Yeah, I know
this weekend.
Ken Shiro revenged his fight against you. That to me looked like a fixed fight. I'm sorry.
Oh,
Kabuki just came to take a dive. That was nonsense, man.
I, I will
I
have
don't
to
think that
watch
was a
it.
legitimate fight at all. But I hope really Rodriguez. I keep saying I want Rodriguez to go down and just smoke Ken Shiro, man, because he's a real. It's just pretense, You're just holding that belt hostage, Ken. As I've been saying for years, you're not an elite fighter. You fought no one. What Pedro Guevara, guys coming off minimum weight. So what? And you struggled with them as well. You had to fight them twice. Um, yeah, I want Rodriguez to go down and just smoke him. Just knock him out.
Yeah.
and just not even defend and just come back up to 115. You're better off staying there. You know, you've got the WBC dog, but just make a point. Go down there for the times they ducked him, and they know they ducked him because they pretended like they sent an offer, and Mr. Honda was like, no offer was sent. It's just all bullshit. They've just been telling rubbish. So, yeah, man, you know, Alvarado's never going to fight Kyoguchi. It's just they've really fucked up that division. You know, they didn't want to fight him. They didn't want to fight each other. Free belts within the zone. You know, nonsense. You know, they really fucked up that division so badly. So in a way, I'm glad he got out of there, man, because he's not getting. They've been avoiding him. He's not getting the fights. So maybe now he's unfortunately linked up with Eddie Hearn. You know, so the access to having those fights on the zone is greater. So he's got a greater probability. But I don't know.
Yeah, and I'm the witness of you always criticizing Kenshiro. So in our conversations, you were always telling me the same thing that you
I
just
made
said.
videos of him like 4 years ago, like saying,
Oh,
so yeah, he had it though. Even if you watch, they took down the sparring footage of Kyoguchi and Shiro, and Kyoguchi was just piecing him up, and they took it down.
you
I
told
can't.
me about it.
I wish I'd downloaded it. Yeah, Kyoguchi was just beating the fuck out of him. You know, giving him those uppercuts. Shiro's head was just snapping back, man. It was hilarious.
Yeah, and look, I haven't studied Kenshiro as much as
Okay.
Kyoguchi, but I always preferred Kyoguchi as a fighter much more than Kenshiro.
Yeah.
Kenshiro is too much of a vanilla, and yeah, he does good things. You know, nice fighter to be objective, good fighter, but yeah, Kenshiro is just so much better and has many more dimensions and just overall a better boxer, better fighter, and.
See, why? I mean, why was there a rematch? That was his. That was his mandatory. Yeah, should be no rematch.
Good point. Oh,
You know,
oh,
for the WBC. So that for me, they just offered him a lot of money, and Kibuki just took a dive, man. As simple as that. You can call it
okay.
legitimate, but anybody you can do is engineer soft fixes. They just wanted to get the belt back, and they just paid him off a lot of money. They got a lot of money, the Shiros. So that was nonsense. Kibuki didn't do anything what he did in the first fight.
I
So
really need to take a close look at that fight because I
yeah,
only saw the highlights. I downloaded the fight, but I haven't seen it yet. Uh, yeah,
yeah,
but,
it
but
was bullshit, man.
by the way, I will have to absent myself for just for a minute. But before doing so, I want to tell you that there's a card that we forgot to mention, and it's a PBC card. So the main event, Erickson Lubin fighting Fandora. Then on the card, there's Tony Harrison fighting
Oh, yeah,
Sergio
that's right.
Garcia, who defeated Mikey Garcia.
Yeah, and official. Remember that Mexican fighter I mentioned to you, Valenquez, the 22-year-old. He's fighting on the Errol Spence undercard against um, Francisco Vargas, the former WBC super featherweight champion.
Hold on, I think I
Jose
remember you
Valenzuela, the
mentioning
fight.
that fighter to me, and
Yeah,
you
real
brought
good
him up to
fighter.
me recently, but I cannot
Yeah,
remember.
Jose Valenzuela, the 22-year-old southpaw lightweight, real
Oh, hold
damn good
on.
fighter. Trained by Jose Benavides Senior, like David Benavides, his father, is actually a very good trainer. They're doing some good things with fighters, and this kid is nice, official. My God, man, you're gonna like him, man. He's got some. He's got some. He's got a good chin as well. His defense is not 100%, but Yeah, to anybody else, yeah, Jose Valenzuela is a young fighter who I really like. 22-year-old Mexican fighting at lightweight. He's fighting Francisco Vargas, I think, on the Errol Spence undercard, one of the fights. Young kid, 11 and 07 knockouts. One to
Uh,
look out for.
First of all, are we talking about Francisco Bandido
Yeah,
Vargas? Oh, he's
yeah.
still alive. Didn't
Yeah.
know. Oh man.
Which I've,
Second,
I've
go
already
on.
got my money. I've got my money on Valenzuela being the first guy to knock him out. Actually, put him down. No
Okay.
one's been able to do that. Miguel Berchelt couldn't even floor him once in those two fights, and this is what. And I was, if you remember, the post-fight showed so did of Vargas and Berchelt. People were saying it was a massacre. I was like, no, it wasn't. Vargas was hurting Berchelt multiple times in the first fight. Was wearing it. Yeah, and the referee stopped it right at the end. All right, Vargas had facial damage, but he wasn't getting pieced up, as people were saying. Berchelt was the one who was visibly hurt, and they stopped it. All right, second rematch. Vargas didn't even look remotely hurt, and they stopped the fight. All right, he was getting tagged up, whatever, but never went down. It's a fighter I've always loved, man. Got respect for, because he was willing to get in the ring with Lomachenko. That fight was happening next. But he fought his Olympic standby partner Berchelt in just a voluntary defense before. All right, big mistake, but he got into the ring with some killers. He was good fun fighter. Not the best, but him and he gave Isaac. He fought Issa Cruz as well before. That's his last fight, and now he's fighting Valenzuela. So Vargas he's an OG, man. You get in the ring with everyone.
Oh yeah, because I was.
Takashi Uchiyama beat him for the belts in one of the best fight of the year, and then Orlando Salido after another fight of the year, sensational fight. So respect to him, man. It's the sort of fighter I like, man.
Absolutely, absolutely. That fight against Orlando Salido, man, I remember happening back in the day on HBO, and back in the day I was on YouTube under my real name commentating. I didn't even know there were such things as live stream on YouTube, and I was following Thunderdome's channel, and I told him, man, that fight. I tried really hard to score it while watching it live, but for only first 4 or 5 rounds. Afterwards, I said, "Fuck the scoring. Let me enjoy this fucking war." And man, yeah, it
Yeah, it
was.
was a magnificent fight. Yeah, it's a brilliant
uh,
fight. I think they
Oh yeah.
adjudicated a draw, if I remember. Um,
I think it was a draw indeed. Not sure, but yeah,
yeah,
I want to get back to Valenzuela because
mm,
I think I heard you saying that he's trained by Benavides.
yeah, yeah.
So it means I think that's the guy who floored Teofimo Lopez in sparring because I remember hearing people posting on Discord that some
I didn't know that at all. Really?
yeah,
My God.
yeah. And I think there are even YouTube videos. There are videos on YouTube. I don't know if they're still up or not, but someone was saying on Discord that Benavidez' guy, and I think it was Valenzuela indeed, that floored Teofimo. Sorry, I'll try to
Because
Google it right
I
now.
did a short 5 minute film video on him. I've got it, but I did it about 7 8 months ago. But I wanted to go back and extend it. It was a little bit too short. But
Oh,
then I
yeah.
had to change the software. Yeah, but I've got 5 minutes of good film. I'll see if I can. I'll see if I can modify that. But yeah, I saw him before. What what got me was that his chin official first time he was getting pieced up. But but then his ability to come back was almost like Virgil Ortiz and Kavaliauskas just to come back in the same round. So I was thinking he's got a chin and he's got punching power to knock out the opponent in the same round. I mean, really knock him out in the same round. He was getting pieced up, and I was like, yeah, interesting fighter with
really tall, but he's developing. I can see ability now. Little increments in his left hook. My God, man, he's got a left he's got a left hook like Jose Luis Castillo, man, and I love. That's my favorite left hook of all time. I don't, but yes, a left hook. Jose Luis Castillo is a fighter I loved through and through. I love that fighter so much, man. And I've often talked about it. The biggest disappointment in boxing for me was because I was looking forward to that fight so much. Official was Ricky Hatton and Castillo, and the fight was just moving up beautifully. I was thinking, this is gonna. This. I mean, I had a 9-inch erection. I was like, this is fantastic, man. And Ricky Hatton murks him with a body with a liver shot, and the fight stopped. And I went, oh, the disappointment, because I wanted the 12 round just war. And for Ricky Hatton to do that, man, I felt like slashing my wrists. Not more for Castillo lost, but because the fight ended, because Hatton was the younger, fresher. But yeah, Castillo was, yeah, he fought Stevie Johnson when Floyd Mayweather didn't want any part of him, so he, and beat Floyd as well, clearly. But anyway, Valenzuela's got that sort of hook. That's what I like.
Yeah, and yeah. By the way, I always don't. So I've seen fights from Castillo, but it was back in the day when I I, I didn't have nearly as much boxing knowledge that I have now, and it's a pity that right now with studying all the current fighters, I never had. Time to go back and rewatch and analyze those fighters who are not from my generation. And it's such a pity, but yeah, Castillo was a beast.
Yeah, he
And
was my favorite Mexican fighter of all time. Yeah, it was brilliant. The only fights he lost really on early was just fights on cuts and stuff like that. Otherwise, he was just knocking everybody out as well. Fantastic fighter, man.
Yeah, and
real dirty bastard as well, man.
I would just say it was a pity that they made him come back from retirement to fight Provodnikov at the end.
Yeah, I couldn't.
Man, they didn't want to kill this guy or what? He used to come in the ring with Julio Cesar Chavez. Used to give him his headband. Used to wear his headband. And Chavez used to be ringside. Yeah. They had
he was the chief sparring partner of Chavez for years.
Yeah, they had a real good affection. It was great, man. Mexican crowd, they used to love him.
Fight in Vegas, and yeah. He fought obviously Chico Corrales in one the all-time great fight, and the second fight was getting good, and he knocked Corrales out.
Maybe Corrales, because he missed the weight, wasn't it? But it was very disappointing. And then Chico floored him with a left hook, and Corrales could have got up, but probably thinking, what's the point? I can't win the belt, so I think he just stayed down. But yeah, that really disappointing.
I remember. I remember the shock of my boxing trainer. We were in the gym, and there were talks about that card. It was just like on the day of the card or day before the fight, and he's asking like, and who's fighting? So we're saying, well, Provodnikov, who's he's fighting? Castillo. He's saying Castillo, who's that guy? Well, Castillo, the shock on his face, like where they got him from, But to get back to this guy Valenzuela, can you please confirm me his name is Jose?
Yeah, Jose. Yeah.
So I typed Valenzuela Teofimo Lopez sparring on Google, and there is a title saying Teofimo Lopez gets KO'd 2 times, confirmed. So yeah, El Rayo Jose Valenzuela.
Yeah, it is him. Oh my god, man, that makes me happy knowing that. I honestly didn't know it was him who fought Tiafimo. I did not know that at all. That's a pleasant, but it's not a surprise because this guy can punch, but makes me happy, man. Yeah, yeah. We'll see what goes. You never know with fighters, man, but we'll see. But he's a fun fighter. He's a good fighter to watch, definitely. As I said,
Yeah.
when you're to fight, I don't know how he makes lightweight at 5'11".
Oh
It's
fuck.
crazy. It's probably on that Mexican beef, but who cares, man?
Yeah.
I don't care.
Oh, he's a fucking big fighter, yeah. 5'11" and 135, man, yeah.
That's like some Alexis Arguello shit, man. I don't know. Yeah, he's just
That's some David Haney shit.
yeah, 5 inch. That's tall. That's about as tall as Boots Ennis. Damn.
Well,
That's the era, unfortunately, we're in of weight bullying, you know. So,
yeah.
but yeah, but back to the PBC card. Yeah, I'm curious to see Tony Harrison, see what he's learned. I hope he's not with his brother LJ because that didn't look like a good mix at all. So I'm curious to find out whether he's had a change of trainer or not.
Yeah,
He's a veteran as well now, so I don't know. Garcia is a good fighter because you can make a good argument that he was the better fighter against Fondola. I thought he was marginally the better fighter as well. Although I didn't score that fight, it was just too late. You know, I was having quadruple visions at that time in the morning after a long week, but I haven't been able to rewatch it. But yeah, honestly, I was literally seeing free, and so I'll go back and rescore that. But that's a good fight, and that's a tough fight as well, because what that Italian was doing against Tony Harrison, Sergio Garcia can do it. I think perhaps even better. I think he's a better fighter. So that's a tough fight. Looking forward to that one.
By the way, they said Italian Perella, he's on the undercard as well. He's fighting some guy, Zambrano. It's a 10-rounder. He's fighting some guy, Zambrano. Kevin Salgado Zambrano. Yeah.
So maybe they're shaping up for a rematch between those two.
Yeah, very possible. But this guy, see the way the fights are listed. You know how the A-side fighter is always listed in.
Yeah.
So it's Kevin Salgado Zambrano being listed in front of Brian Perella. So I don't know if it does anything or I'm reading too much into it. And this
Kevin
guy,
Salgado.
Kevin Salgado Zambrano.
Okay.
Yeah,
not familiar with that.
24 years old, 14-0, 9 KOs. Yeah. So maybe we'll see. I don't know what.
Have you seen him? I haven't seen him.
No, never seen him neither. But we forgot to mention one of your favorite fighters that are fighting this weekend also, Michaela Mayer.
Oh my God, man! The woman who looks like a 13-year-old boy. Yeah, oh man, that she's just irritating and annoying. It's it'd be like, if you keep talking like a bitch, I'm gonna have to slap you like a bitch.
Oh, hold on, who are you talking about?
Michaela Mayer.
Oh yeah. Because I was not sure. Okay, never mind. Yeah.
Yeah, she's useless. She can be a unified champion all she wants, but no, she can't. There's just no boxing ability there from what I've seen. Forget
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
fuck, I remember seeing her on the card, on one of Top Rank's card. I forgot. It was on the same card that I've seen. Oh,
Just
what's
look
her
at the way she
name?
watch the way she throws her right hand official. It's just some very bad technique there, man. I'll tell you everything.
Yeah, and she was fighting some girl, and I remember being like, "What the fuck?" And this is the best
Yeah.
woman boxing can offer.
She's tall, got long legs and blonde hair, all of those characteristics that appeal to Bob, the Jewish Bob Arab,
Yeah,
he's getting a little bit bored with his rim jobs from Adelaide Birds, so he's got his eye on Michaela now.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's why she got that commentator job. Yeah,
Yeah, man. Bob's thinking, man, if I got a young broad with me, man, maybe I can lift a 95.
yeah. Bob is like Shang Tsung from Mortal Kombat. He's collecting the souls, and they're making him stronger.
Yeah, man. Bob's probably got that TRT testosterone. He's got enough to bone these young broads now.
He was the first who tested it. The therapy.
What was the headline for the card? The PBC?
Had hold on. It's Erickson Lubin versus
Oh,
Sebastian Pandora.
Ooh. Fandora likes to fight on the inside. Lubin likes to fight on the inside. Lubin, with his what's he call his punches, the jackhammer and the hammers, he's a nice fighter. I rated him on his come up, but he doesn't have a chin, and he didn't look a good. He didn't look. Terrell Gachet was hurting him. He looked very tentative in that. But the PBC are trying to rebuild his career because he's young. They probably put some money into him as well. So, and Fandora didn't look good against Sergio Garcia. That's a 50-50 fight. Fandora, you'd think with 6 feet, whatever he is, 5'6", against Lubin is not even 6 foot, 5'10" or something, 5'11". Southpaw. You'd think he's got the physical accolades just to win the fight easily from the outside, but he doesn't tend to fight like that. But he's a fun fighter, man. He likes to, really go in and have a brawl, which I don't think is gonna be to his advantage. I think Lubin's got the shorter, nicer punches to the body, I'm not sure on that one, official. That's not a bad little fight. That could go either way.
Yeah, and I was listening to other people speaking of that fight, and because Fandora, trust me, I heard of him, saw a fight or two, but was not really paying attention. And so, but I heard that he fought Sergio Garcia, I think, and that Sergio was robbed against him, if I'm not wrong, or maybe some
Yeah.
other guy. And yeah, people are saying that that Lubin's advantage indeed would be that Fandora likes to brawl, but that has wide punches, that he can get outboxed, outskilled. But yeah, the thing is Lubin's questionable chin.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to watch Lubin's last fight. But remember, Lubin had that fight against the Dominican kid. He took a dive as well when a punch never even landed. What was his name? The unified champion.
Rosario. Banana Rosario. He took 2 dives in a row. Yeah, him.
Yeah.
First of all, a ghost jab. the ghost of Houston, Charles Jeb.
And official that's it in this fight is basically who's the most marketable. Fandora, 6'7", power puncher, freak of nature, or Erickson Lubin, whichever is the most marketable will get the victory. I think they're both expendable as that. Whoever Owl thinks it's got greater stock. You'd think somebody like Fandora because he's a little bit unique in those characteristics, isn't it?
Yeah, and plus
Because Lubin's already got beaten against Charlo, so he's not going to get another title. He's not going to beat Charlo. So what does he do? He's stuck in no man's land. So
yeah,
you'd think
exactly. Fondora is a bigger prospect when it has a bigger prospect of bigger possibility of earning more money. Yeah, okay, he's not much younger, but he's 2 3 years younger. But however, his career just started, and he's gaining more and more attention from boxing
yeah,
fans. Oh,
yeah, and he's got
meanwhile, the guy
yeah,
Lupin, we heard about him, but it's not like the expectations are high for him.
exactly. He's not a big ticket seller. He's pretty inconspicuous. He's already got knocked out, embarrassed badly by Jamel Charlo. So is there much anticipation and money for a rematch between the two? I couldn't give a fuck.
Yeah,
I don't think even PBC fight. Maybe Fandora and Charlo is a new fight they want to see. But what happens, if Castano wins, do they vacate the belts? Charlo wins all four. Is he going to move up to middleweight and vacate all of them so that fight never even happens? Probably. I don't know, man. So many different scenarios, but I can't see Jamel fighting Lubin again. So maybe I don't know. Maybe Fandora they'd want to give the belts once they're vacated. So I don't know. I think yeah. If I'm leaning, I'd probably lean towards Fandora, but I honestly don't know. I need to see Lubin's last fight, see how he looked, see whether it was another fixed fight. Because if they're fixing fights for him and he's getting the decision, then the PBC are building him up, so they may favour him. So
yeah, that's a great point.
hard to say. Yeah.
Man,
Anything else?
go on.
Anything else?
Oh, no, I was just about to say, I know very well how I'm going to spend my Saturday after the fight. While
Yeah.
you're going to have your family time, I will be studying the fights and deciding on the bets that I'm going to take, because I haven't done. There are all these cards from PBC and from what's the other, Ryan Garcia card. I have to check him and decide on my bets. But yeah, other than that, I have nothing more to say.
Yeah, it's coming up to, was it 2 a.m. now? I've got to shoot off now.
Yeah, me too. Okay, so it was a great pleasure to have this stream done together again, and
Yeah, absolutely,
I'll
man.
enjoy your weekend and enjoy the fights.
Yeah, man. And
See
big
you
up to
soon.
everybody who joined us for the live show as well. So thanks to everyone.
Yeah, thank you guys. Peace out.
Peace.